What is up, everybody, and welcome to Robeytech. Guess what?
Not rolling camera.
Oh, never mind. Well, I just want to practice. How we doing, everybody? Welcome to Robeytech. Guess what? We're going to talk about a pre-build. That's right here on Robeytech. Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happening. That's right, MSI wants us to talk about one of their pre-builds, and I know. Calm down. We're trying to do a variety of content, and you know what that means? Hey, it's cool. We get to talk about pre-builds. I used to have pre-builds. Like, come on, I mean, Alienware, Dell, all those sort of things. And, you know, we have to be super clear. Sometimes this is a much more viable option for certain individuals. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a review. We are being paid for this segment. So I also want to be always upfront that this is just really us taking a look at this, talking about the build, giving you some insight into what you're going to get and show you some performance so you have a clear understanding of what it is that you're going to be getting if you were to pick up one of these systems from MSI. What I have right in front of me is the MSI AEGIS RS. And that's right. It is a, honestly, pretty cool looking system. For the most part, it packs quite a bit of power. Inside of it, it's got an Intel, a 10th gen. It's got a 10700KF. Remember, KF means that it does not have an integrated graphics card. That's what KF stands for. It's got 16 gigs of DDR4, a 1 terabyte hard drive, and 1 terabyte SSD, and it's powered by the NVIDIA RTX 2070 Super. Everything here is MSI parts. We've got an MSI GPU, an MSI Z490 graphics card, and the best thing about it, it also includes Wi-Fi 6. Right now, as of the time of filming, it is coming in at $1,649, which is $250 off. And we are talking about post 30,000 series NVIDIA's releases, so it's not surprising to see something like this actually coming in a little bit less expensive right now. First and foremost, before we get into it too much, I want to talk a little bit about what is included with this. What is included is you actually get the full case, which you see here. It also comes with Wi-Fi 6 and a Wi-Fi 6 antenna. And it comes with a keyboard, which is mechanical, nice mechanical-esque keyboard, and then also an MSI gaming mouse. So you get the full meal deal when you pick up this, this particular PC. It also comes installed with Windows 10. I will tell you, big caveat, a couple things if you're gonna pick this up. Immediately, you should do your updates to Windows 10. I had some issues pretty early on in terms of getting this going, but fixing and getting all your upgrades, both with the Dragon Center, which comes included, as well as your Windows update, fixed any issues I had specifically around the Wi-Fi, but once I got that all squared away, basically got in there and ran a bunch of games. A couple other things to be aware of is, though the case aesthetically is very pretty, there is some potential, I have noticed some potential in terms of thermals, specifically in the front. So just be aware, this isn't gonna be a case you're gonna wanna stick underneath your desk. All in all, on desk, having it in a nice open air area is going to be better for it. It's not to say there's anything to be concerned about, but I just wanna make sure that if you're buying this PC, you're setting it up to be in terms of the best of success. Overall, build quality, you didn't see, like one thing is like given $1,649, if you were gonna go to do a comparable build, I'm actually pretty impressed with what MSI was able to get into this for the price. And the other thing too is it actually comes with a 1-year warranty, which is actually pretty awesome. We talk about pre-builds, and this is the thing that I always want to talk about when I talk about getting a pre-built system, is pre-builds are okay. You know, it's funny, like we have TikTok and we have Instagram and stuff like that, and anytime we post in there and somebody says, oh, I got a pre-built, like you'll just have a large horde of individuals who are just crawling all over the person for picking up, why didn't you build it yourself? And there's a lot of benefits to picking up a pre-built, especially when somebody like MSI, who takes the time, like who, you know, they make their own GPUs, they make their own basically motherboards. They have a lot of components that they already make that they're able to put into this, similar to companies like NZXT, which makes something like this where they can keep the costs down and make this a viable option for people. So you're not getting like a bunch of weird parts like you might see with like the Walmart PC, or in some cases, even some of the other system integrators that you've seen and heard from people like Gamers Nexus, etc. The one thing I've actually liked about this particular system is that I've tested a lot of these parts in my builds already. I've used the motherboard. I've also used the GPU before. And so I know what they're capable of, and I know that I'm actually getting a pretty good product when we talk about that. Another benefit in terms of buying a pre-built is when we talk about that 1-year warranty. Basically, the 1-year warranty allows me, it's like, hey, if there's a problem with the system, and even though it's a limited warranty, you have one number to call to get it fixed. Now, we haven't tried calling them, you know, in terms of that, but like, I'm well aware that should there be an issue with this, like both the support from Newegg and with MSI in general, basically all you do is call that number, they'll basically get you taken care of. You don't have to worry about, hey, and in troubleshooting it is you have an individual who's gonna help you troubleshoot it, and then should you have a problem, they'll help you get squared away, right? So instead of versus like when I, as a system, like when I help troubleshoot people who I built PCs for, like we're trying, you know, we may have to return the RAM to one person, or we may have to do an RMA on the GPU, and these are all different manufacturers. When you basically use something like a pre-built, it becomes a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about those particular things. The other thing that's really nice about things like this is that these particular machines and these components are used together. That means that they have a tendency to be more compatible, versus a lot of times you take some of those risks when you build your own PC for certain things, because you know, there isn't like 100 or 200 or 300,000 or 3,000 of these particular ones like there would be in this case. The other thing too that I also like, for 1,600 bucks, they put a good combination between the 10700KF and the 2070 Super. So when you're talking about what target this particular brand of PC would be good for, you're looking at doing something that is definitely at 1440p. Most of our gaming was at 1440p. We played Flight Sim, we played Gears, Assassin's Creed, and a bunch of other ones. And this PC did more than well enough at 1440p at high settings, including on Flight Sim, which was also pretty awesome. Now we're getting, you know, 30 frames per second, obviously on Flight Sim, but for the most part, did really, really well in terms of overall performance. We're going to show you a little bit of that here later on in the video, but I just want to get you kind of like a basis for something like this. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, like, there is a series of these particular brands from MSI. Right now we're talking about the Aegis RS, but they actually have some additional systems as well, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this. We're going to show this because we have one of these systems, and I was actually pretty excited about it, and this one was sub $986. We're not going to be showing it here, but I wanted to bring it up because if you're looking for another option, you don't want to spend $1,600, they also have a sub $1,000 one that we can talk about, and I'll show you that. You're going to see it here on screen right now, and that is the MSI Gaming Desktop Codex R. This one was actually $929. It includes the 10400F, which is crazy. The 10400, I don't know if you watched, I did a video a couple weeks ago specifically on our $1,000 Intel build, and the 10400 is actually capable of competing with things like the 3700X. So from a gaming power standpoint, the Intel 10400 is actually a great CPU. They paired that with the GTX 1660 Super, which was actually in my original 1K build. Another great 1080p powerhouse. You saw performance in terms of Call of Duty, Fortnite, and other ones in the greater than 100 frames per second range at 1080p. They had 8 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and then it came with a 1 terabyte hard drive. And then finally, there was actually, I think Toasty Bros actually did something on the higher end MSI where they had like the fully loaded i9 10900K, and I think that one was like 3,500. I'm not going to show that one. We didn't have that unit. I didn't get a chance to look at it, so I don't want to comment too much on it. But they actually have 3 different offerings for these particular pre-built systems. And like I said, across the board, whether that's the $929, which was like 170 bucks for the Codex R, or if you wanted to get to the Aegis RS, which is the one that we're talking about, that we're showing here, at 1,650 bucks. Both were really good in terms of competitively priced. And again, you're talking about MSI components, which are used by a myriad of us builders across the board with their Gaming X Trios, etc., in terms of their GPUs and CPUs, which is pretty awesome. So that's it. That's a nice overview of the system. Overall, feels like a good value for you. Again, we're not reviewing this. I just want to give you, like, in terms of looking over it from a top level view, the things that I want to look at to just make sure that you're informed is pricing. Like if I was going to put together a build that was very similar from pricings, we're not seeing a lot of markup here in terms of the components. Overall, the build aesthetically looks very nice. I love the RGB options, specifically the default one. This is how it boots, and I like the coloration specifically around the fans. And then with the 10700KF and the 2070 Super, that's a great combination of CPU and GPU in terms of a pairing, so you're not going to see a lot of bottlenecking, and overall in terms of your 1440p performance, it's actually going to perform and handle very well, which is what this build is really kind of suited and built around. Okay, one other thing I wanted to cover before we go into performance is I want to talk a little bit about, hey, if I wanted to upgrade stuff like, one of the things that I also really appreciated about this is if I wanted to upgrade in terms of just doing maintenance on the PC, it's actually pretty simple. The panel, just basically 2 thumb screws in the back, and you just get access right in here. There's nothing too crazy. I think one of the things is like when you talk about like Dell or Alienware, this is just your standard ATX case. Nothing crazy in terms of wiring or anything like that, which sometimes you'll get surprises for. So if you wanted to upgrade this to, say, for instance, a 3070 at some point in time, you could easily do that. So opening up here, again, if you wanted to look at the 2070 Super, if you just want to replace this with 3070, really easy. In terms of upgrading RAM, again, pretty standard layout. There's not, I guess the short of it is there's no big tricks in here in terms of this is a case that you could easily replace parts. A lot of times I'll work with individuals who are like, hey, I have this pre-built, but I want to upgrade it to a 3700 or I want to upgrade it to, 4000 series. This case and these components are going to allow you to do that versus using another system. So anyway, nice quick overview. Feels like you guys got some good insight there. Let's just take a quick look at a couple games, see how this performs, and then we'll close out the video from there. Okay, so the first game we're going to check out, which I always like to show this one because, hey, you're using a 2070 Super, you have RTX, we've got new DLSS, and obviously we have further advancements with the new 3000 series coming down the road, but I want to show, hey, if you pick this up, if you were playing RTX games, and a lot of people use Control because it's one of the few games that actually uses like all the bells and whistles from a ray tracing standpoint. So I wanted to show how this performs. Fully expecting to get greater than 60 FPS here. Given that we're playing at 1080p. And you should also be able to see this as well on high with 1440p. In fact, we're getting 240 frames per second, but I know we're in a cutscene right now. So everything is unlocked to show you what your potential is going to be, but I want to just give you an idea. It's like, hey, should I pick up the system? Right now, given the really good sale that's on this from a price point, like, hey, how is this going to perform in games, especially games that are going to push the card in the right way? And so right now you're seeing CPU utilization and GPU utilization sitting at about 50%, which is great, but let's get into gameplay so you can actually see what this goes. Okay, so here we go, 94 frames per second, there you go. That's more typical of a ray tracing game sitting at around 60, which is what I kind of expected. And I expect if you go to 1440p, you'll probably lose about 15 to 30 frames, so you're going to be closer to 30 frames per second at 1440. And again, this is definitely a PC that's pushed at specifically this particular. When you're talking about games like Control, we're definitely pushing this. If you wanted to get greater than 60 FPS, you could just change your ray tracing down from high to medium, and you could easily get back into the 60 frames per second range for Control. So again, there's Control showing you 60 frames per second. The intro is a great place because there's a ton of reflections. It's really kind of a showcase for this. So that's a really good place to kind of show you Control. Okay, so I just got finished showing you Control. But I want to give you another different option. Full transparency, we're going to show you Flight Sim, but there's an issue with Flight Sim right now. So we're actually going to show you Assassin's Creed, which is another much more another big visual title. So just seeing how it works for performance and given that we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla using the same engine, wanted to show you a little bit in terms of what performance might be like on a game like that. If you're looking to, anyway, obviously given how close we are to November, given the date. So right now, here we are playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Another great place to actually start this and do some literal benchmarking right here at the beginning is actually at the beginning, tons of soldiers on screen. Looking at this, we're getting close to 60 frames per second. This is at 1080p. We're also doing this at high, so this is like max visual settings, which looks really good. So we wanted to sit there and say, hey, what's it like at ultra? I'm playing way better at this with the mouse and keyboard than I expected to. So yeah, visually, like running at 60 FPS, which should be more than good enough in terms of being able to enjoy the experience for a game like Assassin's Creed, both on controller and then keyboard and mouse if you want to check that. In fact, the last thing we'll test is check this out. One of the things I thought was great about Assassin's Creed is Assassin's Creed actually added a benchmark, and so we can just take a look at this from the benchmark, and then we'll close out the video, and let's give you some closing thoughts on this here in a minute. Here we go. Let's go into this. Loading. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Close out with the benchmark, which feels like a good, nice little overview. Way to close out an overview for a nice pre-built here from MSI. So here we go right now. You can see down there, we're looking at the frames here. So this is, again, running, I set the settings to high, so this is kind of what you can expect. This is going to basically fly around the area. Right now, VSync's off, our FPS limit is off, and it's not doing adaptive quality. It's staying at standard quality, so you can basically just see what this is going to run like at all the times. We're seeing right now average sitting at in the 75 range. This is a cool thing about this benchmark. As you see over the bottom right, it's showing you what your average frame rate is sitting at 74, with lows at the 43 and highs at 140. When that's obviously when you're starting off there at the beginning. But overall, average thing, I'm expecting to see around 60. We're really kind of pushing the hardware here, specifically a game like this, given open world. But yeah, it's kind of give you something to expect in terms of what you expect if you're going to play something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then the same thing is, like, we have played with these particular specs on Call of Duty. You're easily going to get 100 frames per second there. Fortnite, 100 frames per second easily. I just want to show something a little bit different than what we've standardly done with some of these games. When you're looking at doing a pre-built like this, which might be more akin to what you're doing. So again, total frames, we're looking at average was 70, min 29, and our max at 143. Anyway, guys, that is an overview of the MSI Aegis RS. I just wanted to cover kind of the high-level stuff. And again, this is the first time we've covered something like this, so I'd love to know your thoughts and what we can do better in the comments below. Because if we do one of these, I want to make sure that you guys feel good about when you spend your time with us, right? Again, we're probably going to do more like this, and I appreciate MSI giving us the opportunity to do something like this. The things I wanted to cover at a high level, again, what's included, what are some pitfalls we had when we set it up, you know, what were like aesthetically overview, talking about the parts and what the parts were, and making sure that you understood, hey, if I was going to build my PC or if I was going to get the pre-built, is it comparable? And at the same time, like, what are the pros and cons of doing something like a pre-built like this? So I hope you got that out of the video. If you did, awesome, I did my job. Now, speaking of awesome, when you're talking about all that stuff down in the comments below, which I'd love to hear about, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we go live right here on Robeytech. Also, make sure you check out our live show every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday right here on YouTube or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Robeytech. If you want to go hang out with the more gaming crowd. You can also follow me over on all the socials, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're available everywhere, and we got some really great content showing over there as well. Finally, we have an awesome community of over 4,000 people now hanging out in Discord talking about PC building, tech questions, all that sort of stuff, a bunch of like-minded folks. If that's where you want to hang out, maybe get to meet some new friends, help build a PC together, share your PC pictures, go check it out. Link is in the description below for all that stuff. Hope this was helpful. Let us know. Outside of that, I'm going to go play some games and check out some more machines. We'll talk to you guys later. Casey thought this was too awesome, and that's what the problem was.